Some interesting pro day results for some top offensive linemen that could impact the San Francisco 49ers in the NFL draft. And what might that look like if the Niners go offensive line first? Just a little mini mock draft and maybe some news around the NFL as to why Brandon Aiyuk might be staying with the San Francisco 49ers. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thank you so much, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please hit that subscribe button. If you're not subscribed yet, pause right now and subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcast. We do appreciate all the everydayers out there. If you're already subscribed, just hit that thumbs up. Let us know you came through and you're hanging out with us on today's program, which is brought to you by Gametime. Right now, a special offer for our listeners. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. All right, Croc. Let's actually start with the wide receiver news because I want to talk offensive linemen as well. But my eyebrows got raised a little bit with the Stefon Diggs contract with the New England Patriots for a couple of reasons. And why would we bring up the New England Patriots and Stefon Diggs when it comes to the 49ers? Well, for a couple of reasons. One, 3 years, $69 million. It's kind of more than I thought. Like, wide receivers are making money. The wide receiver contracts every single time is like, oh, it's kind of more than I thought. Almost every single time. And the 49ers experienced this with their own guy. And Brandon Aiyuk was like, oh, man, we had to pay him maybe more than I thought. Maybe they don't like how much they're paying him right now. But the New England Patriots, Croc, were one of the teams that were interested in Brandon Aiyuk last offseason and again this offseason. And the fact that they've gone out now and signed a veteran wide receiver, do you think that is telling us that they are now out on trading for Brandon Aiyuk this offseason?
Yeah, I believe so, especially with how much they paid him. Now, I'd have to look at the specifics of the contract, but 3 years, $69 million. How much of that is guaranteed? I would guess it's essentially a 2-year contract with kind of a year to kind of fluff some of the numbers up. But if you told me over 2 years he makes, I don't know, $44 million, so that's kind of a lot of money for a guy who his trajectory is kind of going downward a little bit. And I like Stefon Diggs. I think, a few years ago, what he was, but last year with Houston, little up and down, not to the extent of what we thought it was going to be. And then he tears his ACL. He looks to be recovering well. And I've been watching him, his workouts and watching him run routes and things. So he tore his ACL the week after Brandon Aiyuk. Now they may have some different injury stuff going in. I think with Aiyuk it was a little bit more than just an ACL, but Diggs is out there and he's running routes and he's catching the ball, and whatever he's shown, Patriots feel comfortable with that. Now my reason for not maybe giving him the most money is because he's been in multiple situations now that he's forced his way out of it, and I think a lot of it, I don't know if it has to do with the quarterback or whatever the situation is, but to put that type of personality, which again, terrific football player, especially when healthy, but to put that personality with a quarterback who hasn't established himself yet in the NFL, that's kind of playing with fire a little bit by New England.
And New England clearly is not worried about someone coming off an ACL, so it does add some credence to them potentially have been interested in Brandon Aiyuk, and clearly have a huge amount of cap space, so the money wasn't going to be the problem. And I always thought that Aiyuk in New England was probably the better match, although there's still some stuff out there about the Cleveland Browns and the Los Angeles Chargers, and I could see the fit there for Brandon Aiyuk. So it doesn't mean he's 100% staying now, but certainly a lot less likely he's going to end up. Are they going to bring in two guys with a lot of money that are both coming off of ACLs in New England? Probably not. So I think this signals that the Patriots are going a certain direction at wide receiver, and probably a certain direction in the draft. It might be offensive line, which we're going to talk about here in a second with some offensive line.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that because I've seen, Ted McMillan mock to them at pick 4, or I've seen Travis Hunter. And that doesn't mean you still can't draft Travis Hunter. Maybe you just like him more on the defensive side of the ball. I think if I'm Travis Hunter, put me at receiver. And he's a terrific playmaker. He runs good routes. He has amazing ball skills. Cornerback, selfishly, I would say play there, but there's so much up and down just playing the cornerback position. It's so difficult. He has great instincts and all that, but shoot, if I'm him, draft me to play receiver. and I can fill in that corner as opposed to being a full-time corner. Because football, I mean, what did Chase just make? $40 million a year? Like, give me that money.
Yeah, Jamar Chase, the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL right now. Looking at, I think it was Diana Rossini, maybe they reported that Brandon Aiyuk is most likely staying now with the San Francisco 49ers. I still have some big questions with the 49ers and just what is public knowledge now, and clearly some information that came out from the 49ers front office and potentially ownership about not being happy with, Kyle Shanahan, the way he's running some things, and not happy with how much they have to pay Brandon Aiyuk. And if you're Brandon Aiyuk and you open up the newspaper and you read that, and you're like, what the hell? Why am I getting blasted right now? It's February, March, and people are talking about me. I already signed my contract, and now we're still talking about that. So that can't sit easy with some of these guys. So there's still some more there that the 49ers have to figure out. And if they truly want to get out from under that contract, then they might have to take less, and he might have to go play somewhere else. If they can find that match in that team, whether it's the Browns now or the Chargers, we'll see. But probably much less likely that it is the New England Patriots going forward.
49ers have done a lot of great things, especially with this front office, since John Lynch showed up. But one thing that just continues to be a problem is sometimes they just talk a little too much. And for guys that could be, I don't want to say that Brandon Aiyuk is emotionally fragile. And I think when you're at the NFL level, I experienced it getting cut. You just realize how much of a business it is, and a lot of things that happen, you just can't take personal. But when the team says, hey, yeah, we're all in and we're going to pay you X amount of dollars, then turn around and talk about how you're potentially available and everybody's available. I don't know. Just that with your team and roster building, and is it guys thinking that they are pillars on this team and they're a big part of your long-term version, just to hear that a team could just let me go. I don't know. That's just a little much. That's a little much, especially with guys that are supposed to be key guys in your organization. And maybe they don't view him that way. Maybe that's why they talk about him like that, because as much as they've said people are available, they ain't never said that Nick Bosa is available. I've never heard any rumors or whispers about George Kittle being available. So there clearly are guys that are untouchable. And Brandon Aiyuk, I guess through their eyes, may not be that guy. But if he is going to be around, just knowing when he sees you out there and you're dapping him up or you're shaking his hand, knowing you guys are talking about, I'm the guy that you just let go, especially with me coming off. I would want to feel most secure coming off of an injury. Like when I got hurt, and I want to feel backing from our organization. Hey man, get healthy so you can come out here and you hit the ground running. You're rocking and rolling. We got all the faith in you and your ability and what you do on the field. Can't wait to get you on the field. Like, I just have not heard that. Maybe I just missed those conversations. But once you say that anybody's available and this guy come off a torn ACL, because we're trying to get younger, we're willing to let him go and some others. I don't know. That statement trumps anything else that you say about Brandon Aiyuk.
We got some draft pro day notes here. I want to focus on a few of them. Actually, I want to focus on one more. Now that I think about it, at wide receiver, and Tet McMillan, who ran his 40 time. Will Campbell measuring up at the LSU pro day. Josh Simmons, who's one of our favorite prospects on tape, has got a knee injury. He is doing some things at his pro day despite the injury. More news there, what it means for the 49ers and what it would look like if the 49ers did draft an offensive lineman at pick number 11. So let's do a little mock draft and play through that exercise on today's program next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Gametime. You know what it's like when you go watch your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd, witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like the experience of a big game in person. So whether it's college hoops, your favorite baseball team with the season getting going right now, NHL games or NBA games, and so much more, you can find all of those tickets at Gametime, and not just sporting event tickets either, but getting tickets for your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. And that's where Gametime comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. I've done it numerous times for baseball games, for concerts now, and getting fantastic deals on last-minute tickets. And Gametime Picks is a new feature curation that makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, and theater events near you, especially those at a big venue. views from your seat before you buy, no surprise fees, lowest price guarantee. You can book with total confidence at Gametime. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime and download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Peacock, before we start this segment, we're going to be talking about offensive linemen. I want to kind of throw a wrench in whatever plans you may have right now.
Okay.
Josh Simmons, who is reported to work out in April or whatever, he'll work out for some teams. He did do some workouts on the field this morning. So that's a guy who a lot of people were kind of weary of. He's coming off of this, I don't know, broken tibia to patella tear, whatever it was.
Patella tendon tear. Yeah, that's ended the career of a 49ers offensive lineman recently. Weston Richburg didn't come back from that one. And right now, Drake Jackson is dealing with that and not really returning from it. So it has bit this 49ers regime, which might make that feel a little bit more difficult. But being able to go out there and prove that you're ready to go before the draft will be massive for Josh Simmons because he might be the best left tackle prospect in the NFL draft.
We weren't expecting him to be doing anything on the field until it was supposed to be kind of a private, not a private, just his own workout away from Ohio State and all the college, the NFL teams. They get to come and watch him work out. And hey, I'm ready, whatever you guys need. But to see him do it right now in March, that was probably, I would assume that some of the scouts are probably as excited as I am about him because he is the best tackle in his class. It's the health part, and it's the injury part, and the bad history with the injury that may kind of worry guys. But you see him moving out there, it's probably hard not to get excited.
Yeah, and he put up 33 reps at the bench press at his Ohio State Pro Day this morning, which is, if you're listening to this podcast, Wednesday morning, on March 26th. By the way, happy anniversary. March 26th, 2021. The 49ers traded up to pick number 3 and eventually drafted Trey Lance. So that's what portion of the offseason we're in right now. Like, big things could happen any moment, any day. Teams are talking behind the scenes. Pro days are happening. And Josh Simmons. So 33 bench press reps, which would have been the top of any player at the entire combine. So he's been lifting behind the scenes, even though he's got the torn patellar tendon. And did you see what workouts he did and what he did on the field? Did you see any of it or know exactly what he did?
It's just a brief video, and it's just showing him. He's like slide protecting. He's going back and forth. There must have been someone moving him, saying here, and he's moving and shuffling the feet. Wow. And it's a brief clip, but just to see him doing anything on the field, it's just got to be a little encouraging.
We're back.
What's more encouraging? Seeing him, and I actually sent it to you. I sent it to you in the DMs on Instagram, so you can check that out.
Okay.
But I want to know what's more encouraging: seeing him move around, or Will Campbell's arms getting longer from the combine to his pro day.
It's a huge day for offensive linemen. It's good news for the 49ers as it pertains to the draft. If potentially there's a couple of prospects that check a box for you before you get to that point at pick number 11, the more good players there are that are either going in ahead of the Niners or available for the 49ers at pick 11 is massive. And the fact that potentially 24 hours ago, there's suddenly 2 more offensive tackles available at pick 11 that you would want to take. That's massive for the 49ers, right? So Josh Simmons, we'll put a pin in that one. He's doing some things at his workout. I'll take a look at that video and we'll see if he still does that other full workout for teams before the draft, which is huge. It can't be more important for Josh Simmons than what his draft stock is if he proves he's ready before the teams have to make those selections in the NFL draft. Otherwise, we're talking about Josh Simmons probably pick 43 instead of pick 11.
We got a tweet about that as well with one of our listeners. He was asking just that. I'll read that real quick. He said, listen to Locked On 49ers this morning, Peacock and Croc. I actually liked Collins Alexander. Nope, that's not the one. Here it goes right here. Sorry, Chris Chapman. Here we go. Question for you guys. Simmons was easily the best offensive line talent in this draft. That being said, because of the injury, is he falling? Would you take him if he falls to 43? And does that injury scare you that much? Now, that was an hour ago, I'm sure, before the video started circulating of him actually moving. So it may change, but you just talked about him potentially, falling, and even if it's to the second round because people are unsure about the injury.
And I think it'll still affect his stock, even if he is able to work out all the way, because you don't know exactly what that's going to be like in a game. But it will absolutely help him if he can prove that he's ready to start practicing and he's that ready to go potentially. And the medical reports will be huge, obviously, for Simmons. But with Campbell, he ended up with 33-inch arm length at the LSU Pro Day, which is the minimum. Like that, you got to hit 33 inches, and for some teams, you still got to hit 34 inches for them to consider you an offensive tackle. But for Will Campbell at the combine, his arms measured at 32 and 5/8, and they were 33 inches even, hitting the minimum threshold for a lot of teams, Croc, at the LSU Pro Day. So I'm going to ask you, what do you trust more? Arm length measurements at pro days or 40 times at pro days? Guy like Ted McMillan is like, hey, he ran a 4.48. And then you hear, oh, no, it might have been a 4.53. Actually, some scouts said 4.55, maybe 4.58. So I don't know what to think about Ted McMillan and his time speed. I think he'll probably get the 4.53 tag, which is plenty fast, I think, and fine for someone who Ted McMillan is. But what about Will Campbell? Because it could be the difference in him being a tackle and being a guard in the NFL with that arm length. And it could be the difference in drafting him or not for some teams in the top, I don't know, 10 to 15 picks.
Well, real quick, what is the difference between 32 and 5/8 and 33? Are we talking like that much of a difference?
3/8 of an inch is what we're talking about. But it's at some point you have to have a threshold and draw a line if you're a team, and you have to say
so
yourself,
they want 34.
Yes,
they will accept 33. But if you're anything less, because I was talking about that with the receiver.
Yeah.
Right. The Miami receiver. And there's a lot of conversation about his slow 40. He ran a 4.83. And there are people like, put on the film. And it's like, I get it. But at some point, right, like how slow is too slow? And people brought, Juwan Jennings. And it's like, well, Juwan Jennings, he ran a 4.7. Kendrick Bourne, 4.7. Those guys ran 4.7s. Not ideal. But one thing, especially Juwan Jennings had, bro, I'm 6'4", 215 pounds. And if you watch his film, it's there. No part of it is predicated on speed. And he got to his top speed really quick and would just run a quick post or a quick out, right? And he's doing a lot of it from slot. That's different. He can shield guys away, kind of box guys out. When you're 5'10", 210 pounds, and you run a 4.83 or 4.8 or anything around there, that is tough because now NFL cornerbacks, they are less likely to go for anything that you're giving them. Like, there's not the ACC. You're not going to be able to play space. One thing I think fans don't realize, college hashes are much wider than NFL. So if you're on the far hash of a college hash and you're a slot, you have so much more field to work with. It changes your ability from the slot. It makes it more difficult on defenders. NFL, the hashes are much tighter. So now the field is a little bit more condensed in the sense of spacing, even from the slot. So if you're already like, I'm not the fastest guy, yeah, smart, settle in zones, cool, but how slow is too slow? And 4.83, regardless of how well you did in a conference that, you're not playing Alabama every week, playing man-to-man coverage. Like, that's what he's going to see half the time at the NFL level. I say all that to say, with Will Campbell, you're saying essentially, you can't give any more wiggle room. Even if 32 and 5/8 is slightly less than 33, but it's like, we're giving you grace with 33. Anything less than that is unacceptable, and you have to be a guard. And if that's how they're viewing it, then that still works for the 49ers if you want to take them at 11, because right now the 49ers is all about getting really good football players, especially up front. And if you told me, hey, McKivitz last season, he had nobody's talking about it, but he had a pretty damn good year, right? He showed to be, hey, I'm a legit starter. Matter of fact, that may have been a better season, especially as a pass protector, than maybe any season that we saw from McGlinchey, right? So who was a 4-year starter for you. So you have him at tackle. Trent Williams coming back. He's ready to go, locked and loaded. John Lynch has said. Your right guard, Dominique Pooney, everybody's super excited about him. So another big pivotal spot is that left guard. And if you draft Will Campbell, a guy that potentially in a pinch can play left tackle or right tackle or whatever, but he can step in and be a terrific guard because he fits your movement prerequisites and how you want your guys to go. And he's smart. You probably have a gold helmet for him. I think it works for him to be picked at 11 for the 49ers.
Yeah, he has a place to start right away, and if a super high floor, and if he's a Pro Bowl type guard and a 10-year player for you, then you're fine with that. And maybe he's a tackle, maybe he's not. Maybe he even can play center. Kyle Shanahan does put a lot on his centers. Maybe he's a center for you, but he's going to start somewhere and be really good for a long time. Probably going to be, at guard or inside for whatever team. And there might still, even if it's 33 inches, you're like, okay, you hit that threshold, but it's not 34. And I see some stuff on tape that's like, yeah, arm length is good, is something that's an issue anyway. And so maybe, 33, it was like, wouldn't matter if it's 33 and a half. It's like, we like you at guard anyway. Dominic Pooney, he was over 33 inches with his arm length, 33 and a 3/8 or something like that. And still, he went immediately inside to guard. They might rethink that, though. Who knows? Maybe Pooney is a potential right tackle of the future. Just kick him right outside when McKivit's contract is over.
Well, here's an opportunity for Will Campbell, right? Play guard, start at guard, get all those reps. We know Trent Williams is bound to miss a game or two. And in that game or two, I know you don't want to throw too much at your rookie, and he's settled in on the spot. You want to keep the spirits up, but there would be an opportunity for him to start at least one game at tackle. I mean, I think that's just a given.
Yeah, that would be just like, hey, let's see it. And then you're like, oh, it looks like Joe Tooney in the Super Bowl. Nope, you're guard for reason. You're an awesome guard, but you're not an offensive tackle. And length is usually that reason. And there's some stuff on tape with Will Campbell in that length. But let's do a little mini mock draft. Let's see what it looked like. Let's draft. If it falls the right way, let's draft an offensive lineman in the first round and see how that changes things for the rest of the draft, because it is deep at the defensive line. And I know some fans will get furious not drafting a defensive lineman early, but let's just play with that scenario and see what it looks like next. Croc, I do want to say that some fans get it a little bit twisted what mock drafts are. We're not trying to game the system. We're not trying to game the mock draft simulator. We're going to use the PFF simulator again because it's just a pretty simulator. And by the way, Trevor Sikkema and whoever's doing the rankings over there, I think these are Sikkema's rankings, former Locked On host, Locked On NFL Draft, friend of the program. He has how important is his job? Like, fans are going to say that was a reach or that was a great pick based on all the mock draft sims they did because of Trevor Sikkema's rankings. So he has a lot of power to paint the picture of what fans expect in the NFL draft. And I think, Croc, this draft could be as wild as any of them when you get after the first, 3-4 picks in this thing. So buckle up. This is and the drafts are always way more insane than you think. And fans forget that every single year. It's going to be nuts. So prepare for it.
I feel like you tell everybody that, and then they still tell you, that would never happen. And then we see it be even crazier than we even imagined.
Yeah. Imagine you put a mock draft with Michael Penix to the Falcons last March, right? After they signed Kirk Cousins, people would call you every name in the book.
Oh, you're an idiot. You're insane. And they just give anyone a mic these days and have them talk about sports.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad you're not in charge. Oh, I think they know a little bit more than you. And then you see how bad some of these moves are. And to be honest with you,
I truly believe we could. I think that if we have the right cap person, matter of fact, we have a cap person that does a lot of 49er social media cap stuff. I feel like Peacock, you and I think we could put together a fine NFL roster.
Oh, dude. The cap thing is absolutely the hardest part. And all you have to do is, and again, happy anniversary, right? Do you think we would do a move as bad as GM and co-GM, Croc, as lighting 3 first-round picks and a third-round pick on fire? And this,
we didn't even think about trading that. That we were talking, and that wasn't even a thought.
Speaking of Trevor Sikkema, I was on that day. I was on the Locked On NFL podcast, Locked On NFL Draft podcast, acting as 49ers GM, doing a mock draft with Trevor Sikkema and Ben Solak, who were the hosts of Locked On NFL Draft at the time in 2021. This was March 25th. This trade was about to happen, and I had no idea. And I literally said, yeah, the 49ers can't spend future first-round picks to go up and get a quarterback, but, I wouldn't be shocked. And I actually had the 49ers trading up about 3 or 4 picks to go up and get a quarterback in that mock draft. I don't remember which one it was. It was one of the top few quarterbacks. It definitely wasn't Mac Jones. And is basically like, yeah, quarterback's the dark horse position for the 49ers here. They could trade up a little bit, maybe trade a third, but they're not going to trade a future first round pick. And literally less than 24 hours later, the Niners made that move all the way up to number 3. And it was like, oh my God, that just happened. I can't believe it. So that'd be a funny podcast to go back and listen to right now, because it was within 24 hours of the trade actually happening. Anyway, I'm starting this mock draft here, and I want to draft I don't want to trade. I'm gonna play it out to number 11 and see if there's a all right. Well, it looks like all the
real quick. I see I picked 3. The New York Giants selected Travis Hunter. Did you see what the New York Giants did? They signed Jameis Winston and then went and gave a bunch of money to Russell Wilson. Like, what are you guys doing? When I talk about Peacock and I could put together, that's a move we would not have done. And the move that was there to be made was you sign Jameis Winston. He can be your starter or your backup, whatever. You draft Shedeur Sanders. Now, right. In this situation, Shedeur is gone, so you can't. But
I think so. There's a few things going on here, and again, this isn't hindsight. Go back years, and I talk about football every single day on this podcast and on Peacock and Williamson. Subscribe, by the way. And I was crushing the Giants for years, not getting out from under Daniel Jones and paying him the contract they paid him when they did, and talking about you got to find another quarterback, and they have just sat on their hands. Drew Lock, I was like, what are you guys doing? That's not enough competition. And like they've screwed this up every step of the way, and that's got them to where they are right now. And them signing Russell Wilson tells me, Croc, that they either wouldn't draft Shedeur Sanders at 3, or they're darn sure he's going number 2 anyway. So it's going to be Hunter or Abdul Carter at 3 to the Giants. That's what I'm learning right now. So I actually think this mock, the way it went, Ward Sanders is probably the most likely, and how I would project it if I was guessing how the picks were going to go today.
Well, one thing that definitely happened that isn't in our favor, Will Campbell went pretty damn high. So
Will Campbell went 5, and then Armand Membo went 9. And so that would be kind of like the most likely candidates for the 49ers at offensive line. We've talked about this before. You would trade up for Mason Graham? Would you trade up for Membo? Would you trade up for Will Campbell? If it started to fall like this and around pick 8 or 9, you realized there was really only one guy you really liked there at 11?
Oh, Matthew Golden going in the top 10. I would say that when you see Abdul Carter probably around 6, okay, I would. The only player I could see myself truly trading up for would probably be Graham in this spot at pick 11. And that would be if I see him kind of, okay, he got past pick 7. He's at pick 8. That's striking range for us to move up and not have to give up, a ton.
And again, fans, what mock drafts are, you're playing with scenarios. We're not trying to game the simulator. We're just trying to say, okay, if this happens, then what does this look like? What happens here if it looks like this? We're not predicting this is exactly what's going to happen, but I want to play with the scenario. So let's since Membo's gone, Campbell's gone, let's run with the Josh.
I would try to trade back and see if I can. Now with players that are still available, you see guys like Kendrick Grant, you see Josh Simmons, and we just talked about Simmons and his injury. You see Kelvin Banks, you see Walter Nolan. I like those guys enough. And I feel like if I were to move back, 7, 8 spots, 1 or 2 of those guys should be available for me to draft. So ideally, you just want the stud right there at pick 11. But I would, if possible, if there's a team that's looking to move up for something, I would move back and feel very comfortable with the guys that I feel would be there for me to draft.
I personally like Walter Nolan here. If this was the scenario, I think he's, the tape is there. The ability he has to be a stud defensive lineman for you, the need for the 49ers, a defensive tackle. There's some, character questions with him. I'm not sure what to do with that. Walter Nolan would probably be the thing for me here. I think Simmons, if he's able to prove he's got a full bill of health before the draft, I think that kind of changes things potentially. Can he even possibly do that enough to convince a team like the 49ers, who have dealt with the injury problems, to pick him as high as at number 11? For sure, trade back would be in the cards here. As far as the simulator goes, pick 27, Baltimore is the earliest pick that is being offered. So we're talking late firsts, early seconds that teams are trying to move up from. Would you go all the way back to pick 27, Baltimore Ravens?
Well, what else are they offering?
We would have to figure out what that would be like a future first round situation. to go from 27 to 11.
Could you get a future first and a second this year?
That might be much. This would be a future move to move back this far, because it would take. I mean, you could do it for a second for sure. Let's see. They would definitely accept their second round pick this year. It's 59. I don't know if that would be quite worth it from the 49ers standpoint. If you throw a future first on, they won't do that with their second. They'll do their future first. Will they do a future first and a third? They don't love it, but it's close. A future first and a fourth this year would kind of be the deal.
The tough thing about Baltimore, they're just such a well-rounded organization. Like that future first, it'll be a pick 27.
It'll be a late first round pick. Yeah. So I almost want to just stick and pick.
Not bad though. I mean, it right now it's like, gosh, you move back 16 spots, but a year from now, when you're in this position, I mean, we'll be talking about, hey, well, the 49ers have, pick 27 and pick 32, hopefully, right? But they'd have 2 picks in the first round. That Jack conversation, I think right now you want that right now. Like you want all of it now. But if you told me next year, I mean, we're talking about 2 first round picks, especially a team that needs to, get as much talent in as possible. I wouldn't be too mad at that. So move back 16 spots, that is tough. Especially with the 49ers, you gotta get stuff right now. Moving out of pick 11, but man,
let's
fourth, and you give me a first next year. I think I could be talked into it.
You're trying to get cheaper. That's how you do it with more draft picks. All right, let's do it. I wasn't expecting to do this. Let's go all the way back to pick 27, and you're getting a future first, and you're getting pick 129. Well, you know what we could do is sweeten it the other direction though. Get their third. So first and third this year, next year's first, and the Niners give up like a fourth to make it happen. Whoops. So the Niners give up like an extra fourth to get closer. Yeah, so 138 or 113. 113 will definitely do it. We got to do this quickly. So we can get the third, possibly, if we give up a fourth this year.
I like that. Because, again, the big net is a first-round pick next year. You will have 2 first-round picks.
Right. Okay.
And that gives you much more power with you even potentially trying to move up and whatnot. So.
There we go. Niners are all the way back at pick 27 now. Okay. And who's there for you? Oh, well, Josh Simmons is still there. Okay.
Josh Simmons is still there. Now, the tough thing is he's got to be healthy. But how would fans feel about Pierce? And we've talked about Pierce still needing to kind of develop, but you want that book in. You just let go Leonard Floyd. I think Pierce, similar coming out of college to Leonard Floyd, what he was at Georgia.
I love Burden for Kyle Shanahan's offense. There's some off-field stuff with Burden with like attitude. Apparently he just doesn't practice well throughout the week and then just shows up on Saturday and balls because he's a freak athlete and he's got like, his wife or girlfriend is his manager. And like, you kind of went through all this with Aiyuk. Are you going to get like another personality that you clash with potentially in Luther Burden? So that would be, I think it's not talent. That's the reason I think he might be kind of falling on some teams' boards, especially with those insider mocks, but he's legit talent. But like, yeah, Pierce and Simmons would be the picks here, but I want to know what it looks like with an offensive lineman. So I'm going to go Josh Simmons here, Croc. Is that all right?
Let's do it.
That's the way I want to play this out. Let's go quick here and see what it looks like now. So
I maybe would have went Pierce, but that may be me trying to appeal to the fan base more than what I would want to do. Like I just love Simmons.
I wanted
even when I heard about the injury, I didn't know what the injury was. I'm like torn.
Let's do the offensive line. Let's do offensive line first. Next time we'll do defensive line and compare.
All right, let's go. Simmons.
So we're gonna go Simmons, and he looks like he's gonna be healthy and worked out well, and you feel pretty good about that. So if you go offensive line first, are there still some good defensive linemen available for you a little bit later in the draft? And in this mock draft, you got Landon Jackson there, you got Trey Amos, you got Demetrius Knight. Let me see who went just before. TJ Sanders was a guy I really like. He just went at 39 to the Bears. Tyree Williams went 37. A few picks before that. Pierce went all the way up to pick fell all the way to pick 35 to the Tennessee Titans there. Derek Harmon went 33. So that was like a run on. I would draft all those guys in this spot at 43, but they're all off the board now. You got Princely Uman Mielen. You got JTT out of Ohio State. You got a couple of linebackers, Xavier Restrepo, 4'8", 40. You want to go that Restrepo here at pick 43, Croc?
How do we feel about fan base is gonna kill me for that? Look, a lot of people came to his defense. I'm like, golly. But how do we feel about Jackson out of Arkansas? Edge rusher.
He's going to be up next in our film sessions, by the way. I don't want to color your opinion on him, but not for me.
Okay, not that. You
Not
said a lot with saying very little.
You know how I like more? JTT is solid across the board. I actually like Jared Ivey more, maybe than both of those guys potentially. Omar Norman Lott, I would like him more in the third than the second. The board actually fell terribly for us with our strategy of going offensive line first. With the way this went, I think we're going to say, you know what, probably should have just gone Pierce there in late round one after a trade down. But that's why we're doing this. We're that's why what mock drafts are for. If this happens, then what? And then you compare like, okay, this strategy works for this, but man, what if this happens? This happens. There's still some depth here, but not a single one of the linemen I really like fell here to pick 43. So you could have, while that was happening, kind of traded up, right? Like if you see Harmon, Pierce fly off the board, Williams, then you go like, hold on a second, let's trade up and get TJ Sanders a couple of spots, right? That's kind of the thing you would do in real time. We didn't play it that slowly out, but I like Jaden Higgins here too. This is tough because you're going to go back-to-back offensive linemen, right? You're going to draft like Travion Henderson here. If you're the 49ers, you got to go defense. And so I think I'm
That's
just going
to go. And we both like Omar Norman Lott, but like you said, closer to third round as opposed to high second round.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I'm just going to do Jared Ivey because that's the guy I like here for now. And we're going to do both of those guys, Ivey, Landon Jackson, some other defensive linemen are going to be on the list for us next. We're going to do deep dives on, and we'll have that episode up for you very soon. So Omar Norman Lott.
We got to get that up quick because the fan base, if they don't know who somebody is, it's a terrible mock. So
right, yeah, exactly. I don't like Alfred Collins. He's here in the third, but you might have to start looking at him at this point. I know some people really love Alfred Collins. I mean, he's a guy that can eat some space for you inside. So I'll do this for John Chapman, who's a Texas fan. And so I'm going to go Alfred Collins. I just want to go through this quickly and see what it looks like if we were to do what we did in the first round. Because what you do in the first round is telling about what your strategy is going to be the rest of the way. And then let's go 91. There's
a couple names I just saw that I like. Now, they are skill position guys, but DJ Giddens and then Savion Williams. Those are two guys that are very intriguing to me.
Savion Williams scares the crap out of me because he doesn't play a position. He's a freak athlete, but like he's not a wide receiver. So what do you do? Like, how do you use him? Is my question.
He's kind of, he's this poor man's kind of Deebo Samuel, Jalen Hurd.
Yeah, I see a lot of Cordero Patterson.
He's taller. He's tall like Hurd.
Yeah, that's why Cordero Patterson is kind of the one that you know what? Let's go. That could be a Kyle Shanahan curveball, and I never put Savion Williams in my mock draft, so I'm going to put him in here just to quiet that, and I'll never put him in again in my mock drafts because I just don't know what to do with it. Pick 100. Let's go. Andrew Makuba, safety out of Texas. Double up on Texas guys, or we can't go Fannin now because we already did our like Joker position, positionless offense guy. Go Jeffrey Bassa, linebacker, and we could go Oladejo, edge rusher. We could go
49ers have visited him, right? He'll be visiting the 49ers. They've met with him.
Yeah, you want to go Bassa because there's been some smoke there. Both Bassa and Oladejo, I would say. You want to go edge or we already got an edge. So you want to go off-ball linebacker? We got an edge and a tackle.
Well, I remember when the Raiders drafted Max Crosby, they also drafted not Sweat. The Raiders drafted another.
They drafted what's his name in the first round? Pick 4.
Cleveland Farrell.
Yeah.
So if they could draft somebody at 4 and still double back and draft someone in the 4th round, what's stopping us from taking another edge rusher right now? And ultimately is. Once you get there, it doesn't matter. Obviously with the resources that you use to get the guy, but once you're on the team, you're on the team. So it's okay. These are 2 edge rushers, and we're going to play the better of the 2.
Oh, Jamari Caldwell's the one I really like, but we already got our big bodied nose tackle type. So we need more of an interior rusher. Deion Walker's another massive defensive tackle here. So probably JJ Pegues, who is, I don't even know how to pronounce his name properly. I think that's how you pronounce it, out of Ole Miss.
And that running back for Texas, if I'm not mistaken, Blue just ran like a 4.23 or something crazy like that.
Yeah, 4.2 something at the Texas Pro Day. He's got speed. All right, I'm gonna go D tackle. No, I want to go D tackle. Tootin.
Kind of like Torrey Horton.
Torrey Horton.
I'm saying
I do like Torrey Horton. I'd probably go Torrey Horton right here. I would like that, and probably.
I don't think he's a Kyle guy.
You don't think so?
No,
he's big. You can't be big.
The corner. No Williams. That would be solid
in this spot. I think he had a really bad 40 time, didn't he? Got people talking about him as like a safety.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, you know what? I think we're out of time here. So let's just stop here and we'll kind of just be like, okay, this is how it started through 3 rounds. And you got some extra picks to work with, obviously. But this was we traded down, got a lot of extra picks would have to be factored in. Went offensive line first. And this is assuming Josh Simmons proved to you that he's going to be able to play this year and play for you, period. Jared Ivey, Alfred Collins, Savion Williams. So a couple defensive ends, got a defensive tackle. So still able to attack a lot of positions here with going offensive line first. So we'll save this one. We'll compare this to what we do if we go D-line early next time, Croc. And I'll let you make the final decisions next time because I kind of ran it this time. I was trying to get through this quickly.
Real quick, one thing we got to let them know.
Yeah.
In this scenario, where you still were able to get Josh Simmons, who is the best offensive lineman if healthy, obviously he's recovering from something.
Yeah.
You still have 2 first-round picks next season.
And 2 first-round picks next year. And Simmons maybe not the best offensive lineman, depending on what you're looking for or what you want. He's the best left tackle prospect, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the key here because Membo right tackle, Campbell might play guard. Josh Simmons is clearly going to be a tackle in the NFL if he's healthy. And, you could put him next to Trent for a year still at guard, but he would be the heir apparent to Trent Williams at left tackle, but give you a starter early on as a rookie as well. Again, Jared Ivey, Alfred Collins, Savion Williams, Femi Oladejo. That was our picks through 3 rounds. Let us know what you think. We're going to go D-line early next time and see how that works out in a mock draft as we play with scenarios and try to figure out what's going on in this 2025 NFL draft. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. Croc and I back tomorrow right here, breaking down defensive end prospects. Locked On 49ers.